Go to Ferguson, Missouri now, where a state of emergency has been declared. All eyes on the grand jury expected to rule as early as tomorrow, and then supposedly there'll be a 48-hour window, so maybe the decision will be made public on Sunday. They're deciding whether to indict the white officer who was shot and killed 18-year-old Michael Brown. With troops ready to roll their tanks into these American cities, and the governor of Missouri already declaring a state of emergency, all eyes are on the grand jury meeting in secret behind these windows. It's nothing like a jury at trial. Wednesday, prosecutors reported that the 7 men and 5 women deciding possible charges in the shooting death of Michael Brown, they're sitting at a U-shaped table in an ordinary room, with a table for the prosecutor and another for witnesses up front. In this racially charged case, prosecutors made sure the jury has the same racial makeup of the county: 9 white Americans and 3 black Americans. It takes 9 votes to criminally charge police officer Darren Wilson for the August 9th shooting. Lawyers for Michael Brown's family say the system favors the officer.
Are you expecting an indictment?
Well, historically, based on what you see, when you got the local prosecutor sitting in judgment of the local police, they normally don't indict.
Same story on the street.
I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's fair.
But in August, the prosecutor saying he's showing the grand jury more evidence than they normally see.
They will have absolutely everything that there is, every piece of paper, every photograph.
Now, the racial element to the case undeniable, as is the case out of New York. And Dominic, there's our good friend Mayo Bartlett, who used to be an ADA in Westchester County, in fact ran the bias crimes unit. He is involved with the Kenneth Chamberlain case. In fact, there was a vigil last night, right?
The Chamberlain family, Richard, is demanding justice. This as a vigil was held for him last night. On this cold night outside the White Plains Police Department, an emotional moment as a son remembers his father.
They say that time heals all wounds. But in my world,
finishing his comment, time has not healed all wounds. In the case of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., the grand jury voted not to indict anyone. But his family is not giving up. It was 3 years ago that Chamberlain, 68 years old at the time, was killed by White Plains police inside his own apartment, after the former Marine and retired Westchester County Correction Officer refused to open his apartment door when he accidentally set off his own medical alert device. Police say Chamberlain tried to attack officers with a hatchet and a knife, and that non-lethal measures failed to stop him. Police shot and killed Chamberlain after finally breaking down a door.
These kinds of incidents happen in poor and black and brown neighborhoods. They do not happen in my neighborhood.
Family members say police only escalated the situation, charging police taunted Chamberlain and used racial slurs during the hour-long standoff that followed. A racial slur was captured on an audio recording connected with the medical alert.
From listening to the audio is that we have a city and a department right now that refuses to admit that their officers were reckless and that their behavior was criminal that day. Meaning that from the mocking, the taunting, the aggressiveness, that your job is to diffuse a situation, not create one, and they escalated that situation from the very beginning.
This pastor comes from a law enforcement family. Her father was a police officer.
More community dialogue, more people showing up, more people knowing about this. So many people, when I tell them about it, they say, oh, that doesn't happen. Or it certainly doesn't happen here, but it does.
The Chamberlain family is suing White Plains for $21 million.
Thank you, Dominic. And again, last night I had a conversation with my legal panel, including a former ADA in Staten Island, and obviously the case that we're going to be hearing, the Eric Garner case, expected it's going to take a little bit longer than maybe I think some people think. We're probably talking a couple months, but this whole backdrop about what's happening, and I'll start with you. If they come down and they make a decision, or make it public, albeit probably over the weekend, Richard, What do you think they're going to come back with the facts that have been presented? And also, do you have a problem that the prosecutor, in effect, in this particular case, didn't take a side? Usually prosecutors tell the grand jury, this is what I believe happened, I want you to indict on whatever the charges is. He instead didn't take that approach. He let out all the facts and all the information and left it up to the grand jury to make their own decision.
We don't know what he said to the grand jury once the evidence.
He said, no, I will
presented.
say this. He has said he clearly took that approach. That's not up for debate. He himself has acknowledged that was the approach he was going to take and did take during the presentation process.
These incidents resonate with a history in the United States of lynching and discrimination and awful treatment of African Americans by government, police. Whether any particular incident justifies an indictment or not, I don't know. I do know that it is that the concerns about police mistreatment are heartfelt, historically real, and have to be respected. Whether in any of these cases there ought to or should have been an indictment, or people were indicted who shouldn't have been, I simply don't know.
You've been following the case, Dominic. Do you feel an indictment comes down tomorrow?
Absolutely not. I believe it's not going to happen. We won't know it publicly until Sunday, the earliest, I believe, maybe until next week. Richard Brodsky has fought for social justice all his life. I hope he's right, and his assessment of what's gone on over history is indeed accurate. But Richard, this is such a systemic problem that there are many African-American activists and lawyers that will not let their clients cooperate with the law enforcement investigation. And in this case, 2 of the witnesses did not testify. The case has already been established where Mr. Brown, based on the reports, was inside the vehicle and drugs in his system and the video at the store. But while I'm predicting there'll be absolutely no indictment, that's not going to set well with progressive communities. There will be protests all around the country if there's no indictment at all.
Real quickly, guys, I'm already over it. Bill, do you think that an indictment comes back or not?
I don't think so. And if that's the case, I hope it's not released on a Friday, because you've got the whole weekend to let that fester out in the street, and that's tough.
Yep.
This is Missouri. Plessy v. Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education, and now this. There's been no indictment.
I am a little bit more, depending on your perspective, at least optimistic. I think there will be. I think there's 4 charges that the grand jury can choose from. I think they're going to take a lesser included, and I think people forget this was not a sequestered grand jury. They've heard the same stuff you've all heard here for the last month. They've seen the riots, they've seen the anger, they've seen the vitriol, they've seen the passion out there. They at least want to maybe kick it up, I believe, to a trial here to let this thing play out. But we shall see. More on RFL right on the other side of the break.